In the cold dark of a medieval English night, a king went to sleep, the weight of a crown still upon his mind. By the time the weak morning sun pierced the gloom, his throne was already lost. His name was Edward II of England. He was born to rule, anointed in splendor and destined, it was thought, to continue the powerful legacy of his father, the formidable Edward I, Hammer of the Scots. But King Edward II was not forged from the same iron as his father. Power did not sit easily upon him. From the very beginning of his reign, the foundations of his authority showed cracks. He placed his trust in the wrong men. He turned a deaf ear to the counsel of his powerful nobles. And in a move that would ultimately seal his fate, he chose personal affection over political loyalty. Men like Piers Gaveston and later the Despencer family were elevated to dizzying heights of power. Their ascent was not built on skill or merit, but on the king's misplaced affection. To the English nobility, these favorites were an intolerable offense. They looked upon their king and saw a weak man, a ruler easily swayed, and one tragically blind to the growing discontent and suffering within his own realm. She was sidelined, ignored, and forced to stand by as her husband lavished power and wealth upon men she despised, while her own influence dwindled to nothing. When Edward, in a moment of political miscalculation, sent Isabella to her homeland of France on a diplomatic mission, he expected she would return to England as his obedient wife. He was profoundly mistaken. She did not return. Instead, she found an ally. Together, in the courts of France, Isabella and Mortimer began to orchestrate what Edward had believed impossible. They wove a web of conspiracy, building a powerful coalition against the English king. One lord at a time, one secret promise at a time, one calculated betrayal at a time, while Edward rested in his castles, secure in the belief that his crown was inviolable. The very ground beneath his throne was shifting. Across England, key nobles began to secretly pledge their allegiance not to their king, but to their queen. The army, disillusioned with Edward's leadership, quietly began to shift its loyalties. By the time the king finally awoke to the reality of the plot against him, it was far, far too late. In the autumn of 1326, Isabella and Mortimer made their move. They landed on English shores, not as returning diplomats, but as avenging conquerors at the head of a mercenary army. The country rose to support them. Edward, in a state of panic, fled. He ran from castle to castle, from one supposed ally to another, desperately seeking sanctuary and support, but no one came to his aid. The gates remained shut. The king, who once commanded all of England, was now a fugitive, hunted like a common criminal through his own land. His flight was short-lived. He was captured, stripped of his royal regalia, stripped of his power, and stripped of his dignity. In a solemn and humiliating ceremony, Parliament forced him to abdicate the throne in favor of his young son, Edward III. With the stroke of a pen, Edward II was no longer a king. He was simply a prisoner. He was locked away behind the cold, damp stone walls of Berkeley Castle, guarded by men who had once sworn sacred oaths of loyalty to him. What happened next remains one of the darkest and most debated mysteries in all of English history. The official records state that he died of natural causes while in captivity. But darker whispers have echoed through the centuries, rumors of a terrible and brutal murder, of a strategic assassination designed to silence him forever. A king erased from the board because he had ruled too weakly and trusted far too deeply. Edward II did not fall in the heat of battle. He did not lose his crown in a glorious war. He lost it quietly, in the dark, while he slept. And so, history remembers him not as a builder of empires or a conqueror of nations, but as a tragic lesson, a haunting warning of how power, once thought absolute, can crumble into dust, and how a king can go to sleep with a kingdom and wake up with nothing. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past compelling, Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the shadows of history.